Hello and welcome to the 79th episode of Rambling Weekly. I'm going to talk about the wash or the whoosh, depending on... Don't know where that came from. What's wrong with me? About games and such. And yeah, that have come out recently. And not necessarily about those games specifically, but just well, that sort of thing in general. Here's a slew of stuff. So, I'm going to take a break, see how everybody's doing. Stick around. Welcome back. That tune there is The Pub from The Last Story, a game that I have not played since it came out. Some 13 years ago, so it's probably due for another playthrough at some point. But yeah, good old Nobuo Uematsu music that's probably going to completely dunk on this episode and be like, no, this is bad. So we will see if I can sneak in some Last Story tunes. Yeah, I like it. That one in particular makes me think of the alternate. I think it was the alternate opening for FF9. I think it's Another World or something. The title page, the title screen and stuff. I like it. I mean, it changes a little bit after that, but that opening certainly makes me think of that. A lot of the music from this one, from The Last Story, really makes me think of 7, 9. Those two in particular. There's some pretty strong nods. Plagiarism. they're pretty close, but I'm gonna pick some tunes from there this episode because I wants to. But yeah, how are you doing? Hopefully you're doing well. I'm doing all right. A bit tired, a bit knackered, if it were. I don't know. Could be worse, could be better, kind of thing. Nothing eventful has been going on. Annoyed I haven't been doing more editing, but I think I'm getting to the point where I can get back into editing proper. So yeah, I'd like to get it done by sometime in October, but I'm every time I start to say yeah, it spirals out of control. So yeah, it'll get done when it gets done. I just need to focus. It's, even though it probably doesn't look like it because it's kind of toasty in here, but it's starting to cool off a little bit. Looks like fall is starting to sneak in here, even though it's not technically the start of fall. So yeah, should be good. Anything else really going on my end? A lot of work. Not really. Finally was not like I have to, because I don't have a disk drive, so I have to use. Come here. I have to use a USB one for getting stuff, and I have all those CDs. Some of them I still have not transferred over, and The Last Story was one of them. Where is it at? Where is it at? Ain't this exciting? Totally exciting. These are pretty neat though. But yeah, so finally threw those onto my computer after eons of not being on my computer because I'm a slouch like that. So, yeah. But, other than that, like I said, not really too much else. I've been slammed with all sorts of silly, stupid stuff. Some of it silly, some of it stupid, and a lot of it stuff. So, yeah. Um, like I said, it's going to be a short one here. I don't really have too much else to add. So, I hope things have been going well for yourselves. And I'm going to get into a topic. But first, a little bit of a break. So, yeah. See you on the other side of the break. Welcome back. That tune there is Conspiracy. And you're listening to it. I honestly don't remember where like 90% of the tunes come from in the game. It's like, the battle themes. I can be like, oh yeah, it's a battle theme. I can kind of vaguely remember that's for that. But a lot of these tunes, I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't really remember this at all. This one kind of made me think of, Conspiracy kind of leans toward it, but almost something like an espionage sort of thing. I know, not much of a leap, nor much of a stretch, but yeah, make do with what you got. And yeah, it gives me almost like, I don't want to quite say Metal Gear Solid, but skewing into that area, sort of thing. So it's neat to hear out of Uematsu. So, but yeah, I'm going to talk about some of these releases. So we've got Starfield, we've got Armored Core 6, we've got, what's the other one? Baldur's Gate 3. They've all sort of come out, and boy shucks howdy, have I know we talked a little bit about the leaks and stuff for Starfield, but more to the point of this one, it's like they're all coming out within a couple of months of each other, and the size of two of those games are really, I don't know, like Baldur's Gate 3 seems the fervor in the sense of a lot of like people you don't really see talking about those games, or they just talk about more so the new releases. That's really died down, and now they've kind of shifted over to Starfield. But it's like, that's a lot of games, and there's not enough time. I mean, kind of helps that there's the whole strike that's still going on. That doesn't seem to really be too much news or movement on that front, at least from what little bit I've been able to see about it. But that's a lot of games, and I wonder how that's going to really. It's almost like an embarrassment of riches things, where it's like, oh, there's I think of all the stuff from the Super Famicom era, partially that gets forgotten because it doesn't make it over to the West, or just gets forgotten. How many people really know of like Rudra no Hiho, like, or Treasure of the Rudras, or or like the Romancing Saga games for the West. A lot of, for whatever reason, those the saga games are really popular in Japan. Not a certain why, but there are people who you could be like, oh yes, I have played Romancing Saga, and you're like, what, you of all people? What? There were certainly some instances I had of that where I'm just like, would never expected you to have played a Romancing Saga game, but I guess that's neither here nor there. Um, but there's just such a large swath of it. There was what there's a what game, there was a few games that came out around the time of, I wish I could remember. There was a JRPG, what was it, that came out around the same time as Dragon Quest 6? Was it Kodelka? I was just talking to Slade about this. That doesn't sound right though. But Dragon Quest 6 comes out, and then just, yeah, something that's anticipated comes out, and everything else gets kind of forgotten. Case in point, Baldur's Gate 3, Starfield, they're coming out. Armored Core 6, you got huge releases, and they're kind of, if not borrowing from the same field, they're kind of playing in their own. Sea of Stars came out. Does anybody? It doesn't help that it's an indie game that's like $32. That's kind of a hard sticking point to some degree. But yeah, like that came out. It was that it sold really, really well. I mean, I think last I saw it had sold 250,000. But there's just, and I know I've talked about this, and I continue to hammer like a puddle of water, hoping to form it into something. It's not going to happen, but I'm going to keep trying. Of just how there's just so much stuff that comes out, and so much gets lost, and it creates this very decentralized sense of culture, and that's not necessarily to say it's a bad thing, but it does create a lot more smaller pockets of people, to where if you don't have as many, it's almost akin to something I made mention with, like, Breath of the Wild and stuff. It's like, oh, you have this game, and you kind of share with each other how you may have tackled something, or you may share something how like what kind of game you played. But if they're completely different, it's just kind of like, I played the game. Oh, well, I played the other game. You're like, oh, haha. And then it doesn't really. It's hard to build a better bond like that, and it feels like there's an inability to be able to make a scaffolding, and I think this may skew into how some people have very difficult times socializing with people. Is that it's really hard for some people to be able to talk beyond themselves. It's always like, oh well, this is, and I get it. Like, this is what I know, and it's not, and I don't, in the sense of like turning around and maybe like asking questions about other people, or the interest of their sorts of things. And that's not to say that would solely remedy the trouble of this problem. I mean, I think it's a problem, but of this hurdle trying to clear of, oh hey, it's we've got all this silly stuff going on, and even in our hobbies, we kind of continue to break things down further and further and further. I mean, look, case in point to like how people will have very specified, very specific genres for music, or that's a pretty, I think, a pretty on the nose point. Where, and I think that's that sort of habitat of culture is the same thing that's bled into other things. Um, Maybe not so much with TV shows. No, but that's I'm not a very good TV guy, so it doesn't feel like it's quite hit the same level as it has with like music and games, to where it's just like, oh, I like this really niche thing, and well, I like this other really niche thing. I feel this way with like doujinshi music, where it's like, oh, there's certainly like a little pocket of music that I really enjoy, and can't really. Yeah, I can mention it and bring it up and share it with people, but it's like I can't really talk to people who are fans of it more from like from the games, because I don't know the games and stuff. So it's just like this little tiny garden that I tend to myself. um, but yeah, so it's like this, just kind of lost in this wave of everything that comes to. Like I think of an a opposite way, but I can stick with like the JRP genre. I have a theory, and it could be very wrong, but I have a theory that one of the reasons why Golden Sun's so popular is because it was released at a time when there weren't too many JRPGs being released, specifically for that GBA. Because if I'm throwing out the hot takes, Golden Sun is mid. It is, and that's being very generous. Um, Never really, it never, I never really could get into it. It was always, and maybe it's because I was very butthurt because it ended, and you're like, oh, I'd like to play the other part of this game. Oh, it's another game. But I I want to. I have a theory that that's why it's stuck around and was so popular. There was accessibility to it, as well as there was a dearth of the genre available, and it's like, oh, this is a new JRPG. Yes, I would like to play it. Please and thank you. Because you can see it on the, with platformers, 2D platformers. Slade has mentioned this to me a bunch about how there's been a bit of a renaissance with a lot of indie 2D platformers this year, and how they've just completely, part of that's getting out of the COVID funk, maybe, knock on wood, but who knows what's barreling down the birth canal, but so priorities kind of change. It's like, I was doing all those games, and now I want to do something else. Could be a bit of that. Could be just, oh, we were kind of delayed, and now all of a sudden this is all coming out at once. So there's a gluttony of games and new releases. Excuse me. And so it's kind of hard to be like, yes, 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 I'll play this, play this. I mean, I've not been one to really be on top of. That didn't sound good. Be on top of new releases and stuff, but yeah, I don't know. So now my thoughts detract. I wonder if I should arm myself. It should be fine. I'm not hearing any blood curdling screams, so. But yeah. So I guess that's what I want to talk about. Was just the absolute barrage of all this sort of stuff, and I hope that people are just able to enjoy it, but in the same hand, don't get lost in it. Because you certainly see people like that happens to. It's like, oh, I gotta get this thing. Oh, gotta play this one. Gotta play this one, and it turns into a never-ending cycle, never-ending story. Do 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 do. But and yeah, that just seems maddening to be stuck in that sort of cycle. So yeah, that's kind of what I got. I had like a bunch of other topics, but then I felt like I needed to hold off, and hopefully next week I'll have a guest. Been trying to set it up, and this week it fell through because of me, because I'm a bad boy. But what can you do? We're gonna take a break. I'm gonna see what disaster just happened and see if anything's on fire, and yeah, maybe I'll be back. See ya. Welcome back. That tune there is Order and Chaos. Yeah, more kind of in the vein of something feels a little bit different than typical Uematsu stuff. At least to me, but maybe I'm dumb. I don't have a quote today. No quote. Just I was looking, thinking. I'm like, I can't really piece one together that I'm liking. I was going to be cheeky and go with one that about sleeping, but they're all kind of corny. So, yeah, I don't have anything. Leave me a quote. Throw me a quote. Help me out, and all that sort of fun stuff. So, that's it. Take care. Enjoy your day, weekday, weekend, weeknight, and everything in between. Yeah. I'm going to, so you should as well. That's all I got. Thanks for listening. Take it easy. And the outro tune is the Toberu Mono, or Those Who Can Fly. So I figured that's probably appropriate to some degree. So enjoy that, and I'll catch you next week. See ya. Bye.
stars, you can